Rockstar Gang, what up, what up? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Rockstar Report. We got a lot to talk about. Everything has just changed. Everything has just changed just like that, ladies and gentlemen. Just like that. Again, as always, make sure you come in. Make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you click post notifications bell so you don't miss out on new content. This is how simple and easy it is. All right. And it don't cost a thing, man. It don't cost a thing. And that's all I ask. Okay. So shout out to everybody already coming in. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way in. What's up, SC Panthers boy? Sean, JY, Cuzzo Clay, what's the word? Exciting news we just got in today. Oh, well, we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to dive into everything Dave Canales said. We're going to dive into what everything Dan Morgan said. Then later on tonight, I'm going to have all the NFL news that maybe you have missed. I'm going to have that little short coming out here this evening. And then we got some more content coming up to you, of course, after this live stream. It does not stop. I am constantly going. So make sure you like and subscribe, okay? I would have greatly appreciated it. Because without you guys, we haven't gotten this far to 7,360 subscribers. We are basically almost to where I want to be. I want to be at 10,000. I want to be at 10,000, man. I hope we can get there. It's only up to you guys, but just pound that like button and hit that subscribe button. That's it. That's it. That's all I ask. All right, so yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to dive into Dan Morgan first. Obviously, Dan Morgan isn't hiding the plan. This 2026 offseason is about fixing what still isn't good. And, you know, Dan Morgan isn't sugarcoating anything at this NFL. He didn't sugarcoat anything at this NFL scouting combine. He didn't need to. The Panthers, you know, we're coming off an NFC South title, man, and our first playoff appearance since 2017. Like, Dan Morgan knows exactly where this roster still falls short, right? This is his third offseason as general manager and may also be his busiest and most important because the expectations are no longer theoretical. They're real. Right, from the linebackers to the pass rush, from the offensive line to the quarterback room, Dan Morgan laid out a clear philosophy in Indianapolis. Improve the roster without getting reckless. Don't let past success hide present weaknesses, all right? So let's dive into what Dan Morgan said. Now, we're not going to go through the whole entire press conference. I already watched it. If you haven't watched it, you can go watch it. Okay. We are just going to go through the things that I saved from the press conference. And we're going to go through all of the clips, or at least most of the clips. Okay. There's plenty of clips to go through. We're going to be diving into some of the clips I saved. Okay. Let's see here. All right, let's start with this. So Dan Morgan, of course. So the first thing that Dan Morgan talks about at the combine, of course, is the linebacker room is a priority, okay? And Morgan isn't being subtle, okay? If there was one message that Dan Morgan repeated more than another, it was this, that the Panthers are going to attack linebacker this offseason. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. Dan Morgan played inside linebacker himself and understands how critical that position is to defenses and structure. And this is what he had to say.
You know, in terms of free agency and the draft, I think that's a position that we'll, try to attack. We're looking for guys that are leaders, that are playmakers, and that are culture fits for us. So we're excited about attacking that and putting the work in.
Okay, so I mean, Carolina. I mean, in our current situation, an inside linebacker, it's shaky. Let's be honest. Trevor Wallace has now, seen 2 straight season cut short by injury. Fellow starter Christian Roseboom is headed to free agency. It looks like the Panthers have tried patchworking solution recently, but the results just have not matched up, man. And the franchise historic standard at that position, we've always had great linebackers. That doesn't mean Morgan is locked into one path. But with us holding that 19th overall pick, he believes inside linebackers and edge rushers will be available if he's open to doubling up if the board allows. I mean, again, in free agency, you've got a lot of linebackers you could definitely look at. Leo Chanel from Kansas City, who's a free agent. Devin Lloyd, again, that's going to be a price point. We've talked about it before. But in the draft, so to speak, Sonny Styles and CJ Allen, I think, are the best fit from a playmaking standpoint, from a culture fit as well. I think both of them really would fit in this defense that we run from a linebacker standpoint. All right. From a linebacker standpoint. So that's what I'm going with. Those are my guys, but give or take, you know what I mean? All right, let's move on. Hold on one second, chat. I'm gonna check something here real quick. Because this could be why I'm not seeing what I want to see. Just gotta make sure we're good here. Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. Just wanted to check on something. We're all good. All right. So that was the first takeaway I took from his press conference. And again, I watched the whole press conferences. I just chose to take clips from X, of course. Another thing is that the next thing he talked about was pass rush. Okay. It's interesting. It's something we'll definitely see. As linebacker. Try to find what he said about the pass rush. Let's see if I can find it out here. Hold on one second. Because there was a clip out there, Dan Morgan. Let's see. The latest. Try to see if I can pull it up about pass rush. There's Carolina Blitz. All right, well, we'll just use this for now. So Dan Morgan says all options are on the table to improve the pass rush, including bringing in a veteran to help the developmental young guys. So I'll say this, just from that standpoint alone, and in there, obviously there's more to it. If you go watch the press conference, obviously he says more than just that. But if you go into the press conference and I need to repost this, it's working on X now. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to fix some technical difficulties over here. So edge rusher still matters, obviously, maybe even more, while inside linebacker is the most obvious hole, even though I've been saying that I feel like the most obvious hole is is edge rusher. That's just been my opinion on the ordeal. Okay, that's just been me, but he has made it clear that edge rusher remains a premium inventory. We drafted Nick Scourton, we got Princely and Mommy Ellen last year, and both showed promise, but the team finished near the bottom of the league in pressure rates and sacks. So Morgan knows that our pass rush needs to change. And he knows that pass rushes changes a lot of things, maybe everything. He's not ruling out adding another high-end edge, even early in the draft, right? That thinking aligns with the depth of that 2026 draft. First edge options are plentiful. First round inside linebackers, not as much. Like, there's a real chance that the top inside linebackers like Sony Styles is going to be gone before pick 19. CJ Allen could fall, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone takes him earlier too, right? Meanwhile, you got quality edge rushers remaining. So again, if Sony Styles or CJ Allen are still on that board, even close to 19, I wouldn't be surprised if they wait to see if CJ Allen falls to 19, or if Sony Styles falls past the top 10, and maybe Dan Morgan looks to trade up and go get him. But also, when he says bring in a veteran, Bradley Chubb is on the radar. To me, Bradley Chubb is on that radar. We've talked about Bradley Chubb on the channel before, about him having his time with the Giro Evero. So again, I would not be surprised if that is another guy that they look at who's been recently released by the Dolphins, because number one, I think Chubb, a North Carolina State product, a former 5th overall pick, played defense with defensive coordinator Giro Evero in Denver, recorded 8.5 sacks in 2025 after missing all of 2024 with a ACL injury, and then had 11.5 sacks in Evero's system back in 2023. So that's not a commitment, but it's not a dismissal either. We need pass rush help, and Chubb fits both the scheme and the timeline if the price makes sense. And maybe that's what they do in free agency. And maybe that's where they look at free agency. If he wants to bring a veteran, Bradley Chubb makes sense. All right, let's move on to the next one. Next thing I took away from this. See, Dan Morgan will explore signing Bradley Chubb. Again, Dan Morgan asked what he knows about veteran edge rusher Bradley Chubb, and here's what he's got.
Pro scouts, they do a great job. I know a lot about them. Obviously, when guys get cut, I watch every guy that gets cut. So the pro scouts, they do a great job as well. So still playing at a really good level. Has had a lot of sack production throughout his career. Just a really good player, and that's something that we'll stay in and we'll explore.
So there you have it. Now let's move on to something else I took away as well, which is, of course, the Cade Mays topic. If I can find the video, we shall see if I can find it. If not, we'll use. I don't think I'm going to find that video. That's fine. But, of course, Dan Morgan would like to bring back Cade Mays. So, Cade, here's the thing. We talked about it yesterday. We've talked about it actually basically Sunday and today. Again, May's future comes down to one thing: money. Now, Morgan has invested heavily in this offensive line. That commitment isn't going to change, ladies and gentlemen. But with the third highest offensive line payroll in the NFL, something has to give. So that does put center Cade Mays in a precarious situation. Like, Mays played well in 2025, positioned himself for a strong market. And Morgan made it clear in his press conference that Panthers would like him back, but only if the price is right. And here's the thing. Carolina currently has just one natural center under contract, and that's Nick Samak, who only played special teams last season. So losing Mays without a clear replacement would be a risky, especially for a quarterback who you're still kind of developing, right? But overpaying a center, to me, does create a bigger issue elsewhere. So this is just that classic front office dilemma, but Dan Morgan isn't rushing it. So the next thing I took away as well is what he had said about Rico Dowdle.
And see what's out there for him. There's always the potential that he could come back. The door's open for that, and we'll see what happens.
Did the Javonte Williams deal make it tougher to possibly bring him back?
I don't think so. I think it's a case by case basis thing. I think Javonte is separate from Rico. It's a pretty deep free agent running back class. So we'll see what happens. And, again, I wish the best for Rico, if he does go out and find something, find a big deal. But there is always that potential. Maybe we can bring him back.
Okay, so Rico Dowdle's free to walk, but the door isn't closed, basically, is what I heard from that. Okay, Rico Dowdle was one of the best value signings we had last offseason, let's be honest. On a 1 year, we paid this man on a 1 year deal for $1.25 million, and he delivered over 1,300 scrimmage yards and had 7 total touchdowns. So now he's earned the right for to test the free agency, right? But again, Dan Morgan says, I'm not chasing you. I'm not going to beg you to stay here. You've earned the right to test the free agent market. You feel that you're, basically a running back one, which you have voiced. Okay. So he's voiced that. All right. So the subtext is clear on that, but the running back market is deep. Like, you got names out there like Kenneth Walker III. Breece Hall, probably not, though, because Breece is I have a feeling that the Jets are going to do anything and everything they can to keep him there. But I can tell you right now, he doesn't want to be there. Travis Etienne, potentially available. But meanwhile, Chuba Hubbard remains under contract and is one of the most productive rushers in our franchise history. And Dowdle may get paid elsewhere. And I think Dan Morgan's okay with that. I mean, I think they've also had their eyes on the fact that, of course, Jonathan Brooks making a return. You also have Trevor Etienne on the roster already. Are they going to look to bring somebody in? I just don't know at the running back position. Are they really going to try to do that? I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's continue. So nope. All right, let's talk about what I want to talk about is next is he talks about bringing in some competition to the quarterback room, right? He wants to bring somebody in. And this is from Carolina Blitz. So shout out to Carolina Blitz for this video. Dan Morgan says he'll bring someone to compete at the backup quarterback. All right, so let's listen in. So quarterback competition is coming, and Andy Dalton knows it now.
I think, I think with not just Andy, but with all the players, I try to stay, honest and transparent with, our plans, and no different with Andy. Andy knows he's going to have to compete. We are going to try to bring somebody in here. I don't know who that is, whether through free agency or the draft, or, again, both. You never know. So,
Rock, I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to talk more about that possibly tomorrow. We're going to talk about that tomorrow night. Few contracts and stuff like that. What's good, Trizzy? Clay, my Carolina family in the chat. No, how's everyone doing tonight? What's up, Trizzy? Appreciate you joining. Get everybody, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to go the extra mile, please do me a favor. Share the live. I would greatly appreciate it.
I'm in constant communication with Andy. We've talked multiple times, and he's aware of the plan, and we'll see what happens.
And depending on who you were to bring in, could that end Andy's tenure with you?
I think it's really up to Andy. I think in terms of Andy competing, Andy's not afraid of competition, so we'll see what happens in free agency. We'll see what happens in the draft, and then we'll see how it plays out.
What's up, Hayden? I am doing well. Hope you're doing well as well, my friend. So, again, Dan Morgan, there you have it. Quarterback competition is coming. Andy Dalton knows it. Morgan just reiterated in that he said before, Bryce Young is the future, but the backup job is open. So, the Panthers are going to exercise his fifth-year option for 2027, but Morgan wants competition behind him. That directly does impact Andy Dalton, who's guaranteed $2 million this year, and could free up. Here's the thing: they could free up $4 million in cap space if they did trade him. Just like he said, Andy Dalton's not afraid of competition. He also said he knows the plan. So we will be exploring free agency or the draft or both. Dalton's roster spot isn't guaranteed, but it is not gone either. It will depend on who becomes available and how this board falls. All right. And then let's talk. The last takeaway I took from Andy, from Dan Morgan, was this right here. Where is it? Basically, this is about pick up his 50 yards and didn't roll out the combine Tuesday extension for the top pick of 2023. Said the team is still working on a strategy. So let's hear what he had to say.
Brand and I, we're still going through that along with Coach Canales. Like, we're still talking through strategy-wise, but I really don't have anything on that right now.
Okay, so he doesn't have anything on that right now. So we're walking through strategy-wise. So basically, they're on no rush on getting a Bryce Young extension yet. Okay, despite Bryce Young's career best in 2025 with over 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, a 63.6 completion rate, sounds like Dan Morgan isn't. Like he said, we're still talking through strategy-wise. That's not hesitation, ladies and gentlemen. That is leverage management, you would call it, okay? So you got Bryce Young entering in year 4 and the 5th-year option in hand. The Panthers have time, and Morgan is using it. That is what is happening right now. All right. That is what is happening right now with the extension, okay? Let's go through some health updates that we did get as well. Let me find Dan Morgan talking about it because it was from Dan Morgan that got him that talked about it. I gotta find it. Oh, well, here, let's talk about this first things first. So Dan Morgan mentioned improving the pass rush important. Okay, asked about a veteran presence, but good news is Morgan provided several quick updates on this. Pat Jones has been fully cleared from his back injury So that's number one. I know he talks about Ike Ekwonu. I know I have a clip of it. Let me find it. Nope. 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 All right, here we go. So here is a timeline about Ike Ekwonu's patellar surgery. Apparently it went well, and he's progressing without any setbacks. So here we go.
First of all, the surgery went really well. Ike's doing really good. He's recovering, feeling good. I just talked to him the other day. So he's in good spirits. Unfortunate what happened. Obviously, timeline-wise, I don't really have a timeline. We'll see how it progresses. We'll see how it goes. But so far, it's looking good. And as far as the timeline, I don't have that right now. In terms of it impacting the draft, free agency, offensive line is a position that we're always going to be looking at, always trying to upgrade and have as much depth as possible there. So we're just, going to attack that like we usually do.
So there you go. Ike Ekwonu's patellar surgery went well, like I said, and he's progressing without any setbacks. Also, have been reports that we may be proposing a rule change to allow teams to place players on the PUP before camp without losing roster spots. So that's a direct result of last year's Jonathan Brooks situation. Listen, everything I took from this is that the bottom line is Dan Morgan isn't operating like a GM, okay, that's riding this momentum. What he's doing is he's operating like one who knows it can knows it can disappear quickly, right? And we are better than we were a year ago, but not completely. Like the defense still lacks, some pass rush, the inside linebacker, right? The offense still lacks consistency, right? The margins are now thinner because the expectations are higher. And I think Dan Morgan's approach at this point is pretty damn simple. Be aggressive where it matters, which I expect to do. Be patient where it's necessary, and honest about where the roster stands. So this offseason, I think, will decide whether we are truly building something sustainable, or did we just only enjoy a 1-year rise? And Dan Morgan knows that difference. He has to be that difference. So, we'll see. All right, let's move on to Dave Canales, because Dave Canales had a lot to talk about. Not really. I mean, he didn't have a lot to talk about, but let's listen in on Dave Canales's talking about passing over. Okay. Let me get over here back into my bookmarks. Let's see here. Nope. All right.
Since I've gotten here has been what's best for the Panthers. My commitment since I've gotten here has been what's best for the Panthers, putting our players in the best position to be successful, coaches as well. When I look at this allows me to be in a better position to affect our team. And this also allows Brad to affect the offense in a positive way. He's my primary architect for what we do offensively with the run game, the pass game, and the connection of it. And I saw this as an opportunity to streamline the work that goes in during the week, and then to have that come alive on game day for the play caller who has a vision for what we're doing. And while this is a shared vision and a shared philosophy for how we play football, stylistically speaking, we're not changing any of the words. We're not changing our approach, but I want all of our processes to improve, and I believe this is an opportunity to do that. This was my decision. It was extremely difficult for me because I do enjoy calling plays. It's a part of the game that really thrills me. I get a lot of gratification out of watching the plan unfold on Sundays, and just the high stakes moments. Like, those are incredible moments to be able to make critical calls and to put guys in positions to give ourselves a chance to win. And so I certainly didn't want to give that part up. And, Dan, Brant, myself, Mr. Tepper, I have their full support. this was a plan that, as we thought about it and went through the process afterwards, I saw this as an opportunity to make the Panthers better, and had a plan for that. Darrell's a big part of that, bringing his experience from a play caller standpoint, building our systems, helping us grow, all of those things, and really having that, just kind of like that having Brad, allowing Brad to have somebody with that type of experience to lean on, with my humbling 3 experiences that I have, he's lived all of those, but I want him to be able to see more of that. And, certainly humbling to have to kind of swallow that and say, okay, like, am I the best guy for this job? That was definitely what I wrestled with, but I believe this is the right thing for the Panthers.
And then what's crazy, and he goes, because here's another thing that Dave said that was crazy to me. That he admits, but upside, his ego was a factor to decide to give up the Panthers play call.
It was a big part of it, and just thinking about wanting to make sure I'm doing the right thing for the team first and foremost, and that's always where I'm going to default with any of the big decisions that happen for the Panthers football team that I'm in charge of. It's going to be about putting our players in the best position to be successful. And as I watch that, I see an opportunity for 2 things to grow: for Brad to be able to affect the offense in a positive way, and for myself to be able to affect the whole thing in that way. But it certainly was something that I looked at and look around at the coaches that are able to get this done. It gives me such a huge level of respect for the guys that have been successful doing this model of being the play caller on offense or defense, and also being the head coach and interacting with different things that come across your desk on a daily basis, and what a great opportunity and challenge it's been to be able to see that and to really respect the guys that do it.
So he gives up play calling, sets aside his ego, basically. And then he hands off the keys to Brad Idzik. So we're going to dive deep into this, because I didn't expect to come into this NFL combine with these type of headlines. I didn't expect Dave Canales to end up delivering one of the significant revelations, I guess is the word, of the entire week. After calling offensive plays for the first 2 seasons of his head coaching career, he is now officially stepping away from that responsibility for the first time since he has arrived in Carolina, as we watched, as he announced. And Brad Idzik is now taking over. So, to me, this signals a confidence risk and a very clear shift in how the Panthers want to operate offensively. And again, expectations rise following now because of an NFC South title and a playoff appearance last year. This is a big change. Obviously, this is not one that Canales took lightly. I think Canales' rise through the coaching ranks was rapid after years as an offensive assistant. He finally gets his first chance to call plays in Tampa Bay. Carolina hired him shortly afterwards. We were fully aware that they were bringing in a head coach with just 1 year play calling experience. And from the start, Canales wanted control. He wanted to call plays in every game during his first 2 seasons, help stabilize a rebuilding franchise, guide the Panthers, to our first playoff berth since 2017. But that control came at a cost, because if you listen to him at what we just listened to, he admitted that giving up the play calling was one of the toughest decisions he made, right? Because he loves the gratification of the play unfold, right? That's what he said. He enjoys the chess match, basically. He enjoys making critical in-game calls. So after that reflection and discussion with General Manager Dan Morgan and, of course, Team President Brent Tillis, Canales decided that holding on to everything was no longer the best way going forward. I think that this shift was necessary. And the reason why I think that this shift was necessary is that despite our success in the standings, the offense still lagged behind, because we ranked 27th in both yards per game, 295.6 points per game. We're at 18.3. That followed a similar trend in 2024. When they ranked near the bottom of the league offensively. Canales' play calling was often getting criticized for being conservative and predictable, particularly against high-end defenses. Some of that caution was intentional because you're trying to protect your quarterback and managing a developing roster. But the lack of explosiveness became hard to ignore because Canales, here's the thing, I think Canales acknowledged that the sheer volume of that responsibility may have played a role, right? Here's the thing. The idea is simple. Streamline the process, okay? Let the person most entrenched in the offensive details call the plays. Let the head coach oversee the entire operation. Why Brad Idzik, though? Why? And it's like, I think a lot of people are like, why Brad Idzik? Why now? Again, Brad Idzik isn't a newcomer. He's been alongside for Dave Canales for 5 years. They worked together in Seattle from 2019 to 2022, Tampa in 2023. Now has been here since 2024. Idzik has been our offensive coordinator for 2 seasons and has been described as Canales' primary offensive architect. Okay. He's handled the weekly grind of game planning, helped design critical third down packages, and built relationships with the offensive personnel, especially in quarterback Bryce Young. But here's the thing. At just 34 years old, Brad Idzik has never called plays for an entire NFL season. His only prior experience came during preseason games last offseason. So that lack of experience is the obvious risk, but one that Canales believes is outweighed by familiarity and preparation. Now you enter in Darrell Bevell, which we have broken him down before. Okay, that is their safety net between Dave Canales and Brad Idzik. That is their safety net. Because the timing of this move right here is no coincidence because they added Darrell Bevell as associate head coach, offensive specialist, giving the staff a seasoned voice with 25 years of NFL coaching experience. Bevell has served as an offensive coordinator for 15 seasons, including stops in Minnesota. He's been in Detroit. He's been in Jacksonville and in Seattle. So he most recently worked in Miami as a quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator from 2022 to 2025, an offense that Canales openly admires, right? He loves that. He's talked about it. He loves the explosive plays, all those things, right? He loves the value that Bevell brings, right? Because he even said it at the press conference too. He loves the explosiveness of Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan and the Sean McVay, how those offenses run. Bevell's presence in that standpoint changes that dynamic because Bevell's not here to replace Canales or overshadow Idzik. He's here as a soundboard, someone who can help game plan and troubleshoot and offer a perspective when things do get tough, right? And so basically in practical terms, this gives us some flexibility. Because if Brad Idzik struggles, right, there's experience in the room. If the offense clicks, then Canales can fully lean into basically a CEO type role without worrying about every play. And then the next thing is, with this type of move means for Bryce Young, because at the center of this whole thing, if we're being all honest here, the center of all of this is Bryce Young. Young showed clear progress in 2025. Again, all right. Now, it wasn't a breakout season, but it was a meaningful step forward, chat. It was a meaningful step forward. So this move is telling me that they signal this front office coaching staff are signaling their trust in Brad Idzik and Darrell Bevell. They're handing the play calling to Idzik, who has worked closely with Young, helped design key parts of the offense. Feels like a intentional move to give the quarterback more ownership. The communication, I think, should be smoother. I think adjustments should be quicker. And the hope is that the offense becomes less rigid and more aggressive, because we have invested in surrounding in Bryce Young with weapons. Chuba Hubbard remains a key piece in this backfield. You got Tedderall McMillan, the offensive rookie of the year. You got Jalen Coker, who showed out the last part of the season, really came along. Xavier Legette is someone that could continue to develop into maybe a decent wide receiver. Who knows? And whether or not Rico Dowdle returns in free agency, again, you have a infrastructure in place. You have a infrastructure in place. I think that this is a bold move. I think it's an even riskier move. Canales voluntarily giving up a role he enjoys and once viewed as essential. He's betting that his offense and his team will be better served by trust and delegation and structure rather than control. And if it works, we may unlock maybe a more explosive offense that we've been missing and take a real step forward in 2026. If it doesn't, then the scrutiny will be immediate. And this is much clear that Dave Canales isn't standing still. He's redefining his role. He's reshaping his staff, and he's making a decision that will define not just our offense, but his time here in Carolina. And now we have to see if the results will speak for themselves. Plain and simple. It's just like I posted earlier on X and in the community post on the YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I truly think that they're just taking the training wheels off. Between Bryce Young's comments, the Bevell hire, Idzik role, this looks like them opening the offense up, and I think they'll officially giving the Bryce Young the keys. I think it's exciting, but I also think it's a little terrifying, in my opinion. In my opinion. So, but that is, the offseason just changed, man. Canales hands over the offense. Dave Morgan hunting linebackers and edge at the combine. That's what we get to look forward to. So, again, make sure you go over to the community post over here. And let me know how you feel about Dave Canales handing over the offensive play calling. Okay? Make sure you go over there. Give a vote. I'm interested to see where this poll goes. All right? So, appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Make sure you pound that like button. All right? Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you click that post notification bell so you don't miss out on new content. Other than that, guys, I will see you again tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and get some more content out to you tonight. And, of course, as always, y'all know what to do. I'm out of here. Peace. Keep pounding.